Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim, HaKodash. Belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole for the elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim, that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled The Valley of Jehoshaphat, okay, or Yahweh Shaphat in the Lashon Kodash, the Hebrew, which means the Most High's decision, which the Most High's decision is judgment. What inspired me to do this lesson was I was having a conversation with a coworker, and I told him about there was a bet. Somebody placed a lot of money on Poly Market that the United States would strike Iran, and he said something to the effect that you know they say that World War III is going to start over there. And I was like, man, this thing, the prophecy concerning World War III, pretty much a lot of people understand that, hey, man, it's going to kick off over there in the Middle East, which is accurate. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 12. It says, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And those woes represents world war, okay? There's going to be 3 major world wars. And World War III will be the war to end all wars, in terms of, country versus country. Because in the midst of World War III, our Lord Yahweh Shah is going to return, as it says in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, all right, to destroy those that are fighting, because they're going to unify against them after America's being destroyed and destroyed. So the fact that, World War III is going to take place in the Middle East, a lot of people is knowing that. Even these Peruvian, or I forgot how to pronounce it, but the Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt, he did a book and he detailed World War III being fought between the Muslims and the Christians. So there's a reason Amalek, the so-called Jews over there, is doing what they're doing. It's all prophecy. Again, it says in the book of Revelations, the 11th chapter and the 14th verse, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Now, interesting, you never hear anything in the scriptures about a 4th woe, or a 5th woe, or a 10th woe. You always hear about 3 woes, and everybody's always talking about World War III, World War III, World War III. The Spirit of the Lord is having that go out, that vibration is going out, and then people start to discuss, man, what would World War III be? What would it take place? And it's all gearing towards Israel and Iran kicking it off. Now, going to the title of the lesson, this is the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter and the 9th verse. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. The Gentiles are the other nation, the natural Gentiles here. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Now, if you look at the previous world wars, what made them world wars were entangling alliances, all right? A lot of nations being allied with particular nations. The main alliance right now, when we look at, Middle East and World War III, is the allies between Israel and the United States and Iran and Russia, okay? All parties I just mentioned have the nuclear capabilities, if not access to nuclear capabilities, because we know that America has a large nuclear arsenal, and so does Russia. And the scriptures, when you read the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, it tells us that Russia is going to be a guard onto these nations, these Middle Eastern nations, some of these African nations, and we see that. Like, for a prime example, when the coup was done in Syria, and they got rid of Bashar al-Assad, and put in Jolanian, which was a former Al-Qaeda terrorist, and there was a wanted list of 10 million on his head. Well, all of a sudden, they shaved the beard off. Well, not shaved the beard off, kneed him up, and now he's a leader of Syria. By the way, he looks like a crypto Jew. I don't think any of us would be surprised if he's not a Mossad asset or CIA intelligence, but anyway, Assad, he fled to Russia. When they took over Syria, he fled to Russia. And Russia has been protecting them far before that. The reason Russia didn't step in severely as they did in the past was they were bogged down with Ukraine. You see, so it's like a strategic chess that they're doing. Let's bog down Russia with Ukraine, and let's seize Syria. And that's what they did, because Syria was creating trails for Iran to arm Israeli counterfighters, like the Houthis, for example. All right, these different militias that were against Israel, what they're doing in Gaza, and Palestine, and these places, Gaza and the West Bank, they were getting aided and supported via Iran with routes through Syria, so they took that over. Again, this is all the work of the Lord. So these are what you call entangling alliances, all right? Quid pro quo, contracts and things set up. The last time Russia and Israel got into the last major conflict where missiles was involved, Iran was using hypersonic missiles. Now, Iran is powerful. Iran actually has a standing army. It's going to be far difficult for them to take Iran. It's not going to be easy, but that's what they want. They put something together, PNAC, Project for a New American Century, which detailed, I think, 7 Middle Eastern countries that they wanted to seize, and Iran is the only one left. They already took Iraq, they already took Syria, they took Libya, so on and so forth. Iran is left. Going back to the scriptures, verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. So these are instruments of agriculture. Plowshares and pruning hooks, use pruning hooks to prune the vines, dealing with, putting together a vineyard. But they're saying, look, turn that into spears, turn your plowshares into swords. So instead of investing in agriculture and these sorts of things, it's time to invest into war, military stuff, and that's what we're seeing. Further AI technology and, advanced drones, because missiles are very expensive, man. So the landscape of war is changing. It says, let the weak say, I am strong. I think the United States has this new, it's not a fighter jet, it's like a carrier jet that could house over 1,000 drones. So the battlefield is definitely changing. A lot of that shit is becoming autonomous, But the point is, that's where a lot of the investments are going now, into war. And they rather spend money on stealing somebody's, military weapons and reverse engineering it than, let's put that money into creating crops and fields and these things, 11, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. So gather these heathens together. Where? In the Middle East, man. Have the angels come down. Okay. It says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat. So let them all draw near over there in the Middle East. And that's what's happening. So that's how come people are putting money that, on the day that America will strike Iran. And look, Iran is not a threat to America at all. I mean, it's just, they're so far apart. If Iran was to really escalate any sort of nuclear weapon against America, they'll be wiped off the face of the map. Their leverage also is they have the Strait of Hormuz, which is responsible for over 25% of the world's oil, and they could shut down that strait, EMP or different sorts of things. So they have their own different leverages. But in terms of threat, Iran is not a threat to the United States. Iran is a threat to Israel, the state of Israel, and America is a proxy army for the state of Israel. So that's how come, they're joined by the hip, man. All right, all these different American politicians, in some way or some way, shape, or form, to get further in society, the so-called Jew will have some sort of leverage on you. you know, whether it's outright money. A lot of it, you know, you see with the Epstein thing is leverage via some sort of scandal, you know, whether it's promiscuity, as they call it, right? Sex outside your marriage. You're a multi-billionaire, divorce could cripple you. A lot of times they do honey trap rings, right, with underage kids, you know, record the shit and then have that over them. So different sorts of things. So you have lobbying groups like APAC, which is growing a lot of notoriety, Sheldon Adelson, and other different lobbyist groups, and they pay these politicians to put the different laws and stuff in place, and these laws prop up Israel and make sure money is being funded to Israel, and you know they've come really far in that method. You see, so you know you have a lot of these so-called Make America anti-Zionist people, but guess what? The top politicians are already in the bag, including Trump. So. And it's also prophecy first and foremost. So whatever Israel wants America to do, it's gonna get done some way or another. You know, and not every so-called Jew is even with this shit. Like the Hasidic Jews, they'll tell you that the Amalekites in Israel are not real Jews. Like the Zionist ones, they're not real Jews or whatever. None of you motherfuckers are real Jews, man. All right, the real Jews are the so-called Negroes here in America. All right, so-called black men. Says, let the children be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. 13. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. The harvest is the end of the world. Scriptures tell you that in Matthew the 13th chapter, the field is the world. All right, so the harvest is when Yahushua comes back to pluck up, you know, and reap. All right, which is to do a lot of killing. It says, put you in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. And this place is extremely wicked. They've normalized homosexuality to the point that you don't even... People are becoming so numb to this shit, man. Bestiality, pedophilia, these are the things they want next. To just be completely normal. That's how come you watch movies and it'll be like the future and there's different alien races, and guess what? They end up intermingling with humans. Some of these alien races look like beasts and shit. So they condition our minds to get used to these things. Meanwhile, you're just thinking it's just entertainment. Just like back in the days, they always had Bugs Bunny cross-dressing, Daffy Duck cross-dressing. Mainly Bugs Bunny kissing Elmer Fudd and shit. Not realizing you're watching a rabbit cross-dresses a woman kissing another man. Or kissing another male. Alright? Fast forward decades later, everything is normalized now. To where you watching the halftime show, fucking Bad Bunny, you got two niggas grinding on each other, man. Oh, it's just a split second, but it's still in your subconscious now. That's how they work. It says, it is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Right? So that's what's going to kick off and take place, man. All right? Right over there in the Middle East. And, you know, as is written, the so-called Jews is going to bring them out. You know? I'm going to get Jeremiah 50. When you read Jeremiah, the 49th chapter to the 51st verse, it's a letter to Babylon. And it can't be ancient world Babylon. Some of the things that's mentioned in Jeremiah, the 49th chapter on in that letter to Babylon, it doesn't fit the actual historic place of Babylon. It doesn't fit Iraq. For example, Iraq, Babylon could still be viewed, all right? Where that landmark was, it's not utterly destroyed. There's still people inhabiting that place today. The Babylon is talking about it's America, because when you break down that word Babylon, Babal, lawn, just means land of confusion. Okay? Now this, what I'm about to read, is mentioned 2 times. Okay? It's mentioned in the 49th chapter and the 50th chapter. But the reason I say 2 times is because when Jeremiah wrote these letters, the Bible wasn't codified. It wasn't a 59 chapter or 50. I'm sorry, it wasn't a 49 chapter and a 50th chapter. It was just one letter. So he mentioned this twice. The Spirit had him mention this twice. So it's an emphasis here. I'm going to read it. Jeremiah 50 and 45. It says, therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldees. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Now, what does this mean? The least of the nation of Edom, the so-called white man, is Amalek, right, which are the so-called Jews today. Shall draw them out. Draw who out? All these nations out to where? The Valley of Jehoshaphat. All right. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And that land over there is going to be completely destroyed in World War III. So is America. The only difference is America is going to be completely and utterly destroyed and never built back up. And the land of Israel will be built back up. So that's the major difference there. Now, you know, people are saying, well, why hasn't this happened? Because everything is prophecy, you know? Everything has to happen in its place. So prior to World War III happening, you have to have the RFID microchip mandated, and that's never going to change. All right, until the chip is mandated, nothing will happen. This app is screwing up. It's cut off. But I remember the verse. 2 Ezra chapter 4, verse 37 says, by measure hath he measured the time, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he doth not move nor stir them until said measure is fulfilled. So the prophecies, all right, the prophecies have to happen in sequential order. The chip can't come after World War III. You know, we can't just jump straight to the chip and no slavery. Everything had to take place in its time. And sequentially, the RFID microchip being mandated has to be next, and that's what we're waiting for, right? Because the chip is here. It's just, you know, them creating that black swan event to mandate it, and they will come up with one, and the majority of the world will take it. You know, they're making us more and more accustomed with something called transhumanism, you know, which is making you more just relying on machines and just comfortable with machines and things like that. So when the chip come into play, people are going to be very much comfortable with it, man. That's what they're going towards. So, which we are not. Hey, man, the quicker the better, you know, because we know after all that shit is all said and done, Yahushua is going to come back and we're going to have a righteous kingdom, which is something we hope and pray for. You know, this is why we do these lessons, to be delivered and reign with Yahushua in the kingdom to come. So, quick little lesson on the Valley of Jehoshaphat. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Chakodash. God belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.